Aprilia's 2022 has been a real coming-of-age season. After returning to MotoGP in 2015, they encountered years of battling with one arm behind their back, but in 2022 they're punching hard and hitting the high notes. So let's take a look at the success Aprilia are so deservedly having. Aprilia's season kicked off under the lights in Qatar. After Maverick Vinales sensationally split from Yamaha halfway through 2021, Aprilia started 2022 with their strongest rider lineup in recent history. Aleix Espargaro had proven in the past couple of years that he was their leading light that never gave less than 110%, and now they had an equally promising teammate to go with him. Aleix would race to 4th in Qatar's fastest race ever, and as Vinales began his first full season with Aprilia, a 12th place finish was a good launch pad from which to improve. Onwards to Indonesia, and probably Aprilia's worst weekend of 2022 to date. After being fast in the dry in Mandalika, Aprilia suffered a little in the wet as they began to figure out how their new bike behaves in those conditions. A 9th for Aleix and a 16th for Maverick wasn't what they had hoped for, but better times were right around the corner. Round 3 in Argentina saw the day that Aprilia had been waiting for all these years finally arrive. In Aleix Espargaro's 200th Premier Class race, he finally became a Grand Prix winner, and even sweeter, he gave Aprilia their first win in the MotoGP era too. In truly emotional scenes, it was one of those stories that everyone could smile at. The underdogs that were once laughed at had outgrown the giants that used to tower above them, and on a day of such joy there was even more to be celebrated, as Maverick took 7th and his best finish with Aprilia at the time. As MotoGP went north to America, also saw Aprilia head to a track which you could say was their Achilles heel last season. 2022 did show some improvement, but largely it proved to be the same story. Aleix struggled all weekend, crossing the line in 11th. It was the first weekend where Maverick actually beat him, as Maverick crossed the line in 10th, just ahead of him. A return to Europe also saw the better fortunes return. Aleix would once again show the steps Aprilia had made as he planted his RSGP on the front row of the grid. He had some work to do along the way, but in the end he picked up his second podium of the season, and it would see the start of his purple patch. Roll on to sunny southern Spain, and once again an RSGP was on the front row. In what is easily one of the battles of the season, Aleix, Marc Marquez and Jack Miller had their elbows out all race long, with the Aprilia man eventually getting the better of the Honda and the Ducati. Count that up as back-to-back podiums for the first time in Aleix's career. And as MotoGP headed forward to Le Mans, if there were still any Aprilia and Aleix doubters, a third front row in 3 races and then a third podium in a row surely silenced them all. Holding off the home hero and world champion, France really was the point where fans and competitors alike stopped doubting if this was all just luck. Aprilia and Aleix were here to fight for the championship. Portimao, Jerez, Le Mans and then Mugello. 4 very different tracks but 4 identical outcomes. In a slightly rain-hit qualifying, Aleix found himself on the 3rd row of the grid. With a whole host of Ducatis and world champion Quartararo ahead of him, it certainly wasn't going to be an easy Sunday. Despite the Ducati blockade, a 4th podium in a row was his reward, and it firmly established Aleix as one of the favourites for the 2022 title. But while Aleix had been hitting this magical run of form, Maverick seemed to have stagnated a little. He was still fighting for constant top 10s, but the progress that perhaps himself and Aprilia had expected had eluded him slightly, but thankfully he soon turned it around. Heading to his home Grand Prix in the form of his life, Aleix was a superstar at home all weekend. Fastest in free practice and then taking his second pole position of the season, everyone had their eyes on an incredible home victory. But as with everything in motorcycle racing, there are no guarantees. And while on track for a fine second place, Aleix fell victim to a mistake that you only ever make once. Celebrating 1 lap early, Aleix surrendered a home podium and only recovered to a top 5 finish after having to pass Luca Marini on the last lap. Heartache like he had never experienced before, it produced some of the most agonising scenes of the season. Aprilia's disappointment was only consoled by Maverick finally taking the big step they had been waiting for. His 7th in Catalonia seemed to ignite the fire within Top Gun, and from there that twinkle in the eye that we've seen in previous years started to return. Germany rolled around and Maverick made it into Q2 for the second successive race. His start was positive and by lap 5 he was in 4th place right behind teammate Aleix. It was the closest we had seen the two on track since Maverick had joined Aprilia, and a clear indicator that in the past races Maverick had made the step that he needed to. Running in 4th all the way up until lap 17, his race was only unravelled due to a ride height device failure. A cruel DNF, but a race more positive than any finish he had had prior. And then to the Dutch GP, and a race where Aprilia were clearly the best team all weekend long. In free practice, both Aleix and Maverick were showing some incredible race pace. They didn't quite have the one-lap pace to better the likes of Bagnaia and Quartararo in qualifying, but what they showed in the race was something truly special. After the incident on lap 5 with Quartararo, Aleix slipped all the way to 15th. What followed was a ride the likes of which we couldn't even imagine from an Aprilia rider just a couple of years ago. Carving through the pack, Aleix burned through the fastest guys in the world like a hot knife through butter. And when he came across the line behind Maverick in 4th, well, it was just brilliant to see. That race for Maverick signified something so much more than just his first podium with Aprilia. 1 year ago he stood in the same Parc Ferme, lost and frustrated. His tectonic split with Yamaha sent shockwaves throughout the MotoGP world, and many thought it would never work. But 1 year later he's back on the box and happier than he ever has been. Aprilia's year has been so special for a number of different performances and accolades. Their first win, first back-to-back podiums, the first time they can truly fight for a world championship. But the best thing of all is seeing two riders succeed that had the highest odds stacked against them. And on top of all that, they're doing it with a factory that faced the same uphill climb.
Hola, this is Aleix Espargaró, and if you like this video, hit like, subscribe and wait for more. Bye!